And yeah, we look forward to kind of kicking things forward when the artists join.
It's always been fun talking with Genesis Block. I think it comes from a builder's perspective from my side, which is really at the front lines of building the technology. So we're very aware of all the issues that come up with NFTs, the onboarding, the offboarding, sort of all the education aspects that really comes in. And so John really comes in from the investor aspects with a much more wider view. I think when we come together, it really gives a pretty detailed view of sort of what is actually happening on the NFT trend side. And so what we really usually do is really just educate users on NFT to really make sure that we're demystifying the process and it's not really that complicated for a lot of users, especially for a lot of artists that comes in. I think they could be very intimidated by big words like immutability, provenance, fungibility. And so one of the things that I want to personally do is just to stop using these big words, and it's really just communicating on a much more simple language, and so that it's a lot more accessible for users to start, approaching this new digital medium, which is NFTs. Yeah, are we just waiting for the artist to dial in?
Yeah, I think we kicked off just a little bit early, so feel free to mingle on top of Nick and I talking. I mean, we've been friends for many years as well, so we could probably just kick this conversation forward very casually until the artists join. But yeah, like Nick said, I mean, our objective has really been to educate people in a way that makes it more accessible. Because I think both on the art side and on the NFT side, it can be something that's quite esoteric as far as the language you use to describe like provenance, COA, stuff like that on the art side. On the NFT side, immediately you get into, well, is it a 721 or EIP 1155? For those of you who aren't that familiar, 721 being the kind of previous de facto standard for NFTs, right? That being a completely non-fungible token versus 1155, where you can make multiple copies. It makes it more accessible for distributing royalties and stuff like that. I mean, Nick, maybe you can share a bit more on the 1155 side and how that really kind of provides opportunities for artists, not just people who create digital art or physical art pieces, but also musicians, and as far as like how the royalties can be distributed through these not smart contracts, but NFTs, fungible, non-fungible tokens.
So one of the big things that happened over the last couple of months, last couple of years, is really a new development of a token standard. So I think just to take one step back, really in the blockchain space and the development side, from a builder's perspective, you need a lot of standards to really make sure that all the different projects that are doing very similar things are communicating in a way that makes sense, that another project can understand. And so there's a lot more fluidity and liquidity in sort of the coding and the output that we all describe. And I think 721 is the two main standards for NFTs are really 721 and 1155. So the main thing that you need to know is that 721 is the grandfather, which really says that, hey, every single thing is going to be unique. Whereas 1155, there's a lot more development standards that really go in throughout years of just additional development efforts. So people can create NFTs a lot easier. So they introduce a whole aspect called semi-fungibility, which allows you to create copies of unique items. So for example, every card in the playing deck is unique. However, if you want to sell multiple copies of your CD, then the CD is unique, but you have multiple copies of it. Or in the traditional art world, people usually call it editions. And so an artist might make a print of Iron Man, but then they might have 100 editions of this particular print. So it kind of has different use cases, and it's also a lot easier from the builder's perspective on sort of minting some of these tokens out. Previously in 721, you have to mint every single one manually every single time.
Recording in progress.
Oh, we seem to be having some technical fun over here. I guess we have one of our artists based in space. I love it. We should get a background.
Yeah, well, okay, we have a background. Yeah, so you would probably want to unpin that. Sorry, it doesn't matter how many of these we do, there's always something that comes up, you know what I mean?
It's always true. Even in development side, there's always going to be an issue somewhere down the line. And I think part of the whole community and the blockchain side is that everyone's very supportive and we're all building something very new. So I think the important thing to understand is that blockchain and NFT is such a new field. And that's why a lot of these, interoperability and all these conversations are very important, not just for the builders itself, but also for the people and the end users that will actually come on board who actually start using these platforms. And so it's a lot about education for everyone that's involved. And so, super kudos to Genesis Block for hosting some of these events in Hong Kong. I think you guys are one of the more leading sort of points of contact for education and blockchain. And it's been such a crazy ride to really see NFTs go on a trend, on the upside. And then now we kind of have a lot more on the retail application talks and all those pointers that we come across.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been one part of our mantra. I mean, we were started back in 2012 in the mining space. Actually, we had an event last night with Bitcoin Association of Hong Kong where Charles, the managing director of Consensus, had written a book, and he basically wrote this book talking about all the influential characters in Hong Kong and how we are this real epicenter of everything happening in the crypto space, especially from 2016 to 2018. I think the artists are on now. If you guys don't mind unmuting yourselves and turning on your videos so we can all see your beautiful faces. Can they hear me? I don't know.
Oh, I think we have.
Do you mind turning on your camera and your mic and perhaps giving a bit of an introduction? Welcome.
No, come back.
I think you're on mute still, if you don't mind unmuting yourself.
Hello, hello. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Hello, we are still setting up our talk show. It's finished right now, so we are setting up now. Question, please.
So I think the background music and noise is a bit much for us on our end. Yeah. From her end, but what we're hearing on our end, yeah. All right, let's give this another try. Oh, welcome. Would you mind giving a quick introduction? And oh, they're right next to each other too. Cool.
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Well, what's the moment?
Yeah, I think you're on mute now, but if you don't mind giving a quick introduction to who you are and maybe showcase, if you can share your screen and showcase some of your art.
Oh, is it already start streaming?
Yeah, we're live. We've got like, 30, 40 people here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I'm the VJU. I'm the crypto artist, also the crypto collector. Basically, I'm working in Tokyo, and so before crypto, I worked for the visual industry over 15 years, like the stage visuals, the music industry. And after 2018, I started joining for the blockchain industry because around 2018, there's many computer graphic companies start for mining because in around 2018 it was the Ethereum was very up and many people were buying the mining machine. So yeah, it was the beginning of my crypto story. And probably now Mari is coming. Yeah, sorry, we just finished the previous session.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
Do you guys want to just share
one screen?
Why don't you
just share one screen? Yeah. Just why don't you just close the other one and share one screen with it because you're next to each other.
Huh? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And maybe close the other one so we can just have a bigger screen for what we're seeing on the projector. Thank you.
Oh, no, we've lost the connection to space.
Nice. Welcome. If you don't mind giving a brief introduction, tell us your story as well, and then we can kind of move our way into the discussion.
Sure. So Mari, yeah, please talk about yourself.
Me?
Yes.
Hello. My name is Mari. Marimosphere is my artist name, and I'm a crypto artist. I've been a visual artist, and now I'm doing crypto artist community as well on Discord. And our community is about 350 people, 50 artists right now, but it's increasing the numbers. And this is we are doing a physical exhibition right now. People came here. It was full. It was full. It was talk show, and many people were sitting down, and now people kind of chatting in the site. And this is basement, and the first floor also we have exhibition. So 14 artists, yeah, and also there's a physical exhibition as well.
And this is in Tokyo, correct?
Yes, it's called Tokyo. It's Circus Tokyo. Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Very cool. So yeah, I guess that's a good segue into our main discussion, which is talking about the renaissance of digital art and whether or not NFTs and digital arts are creating a new segment of users or cannibalizing the traditional art space. And I think a good way to open up this discussion is kind of to talk about the development of how we could technically produce art between, say, like the 19th and 20th century, and then with the dawn of the computer, that opened up all these new kinds of mediums for us to produce art. So I think that's like a good way to kind of open up the discussion. Yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on that? And how have you guys seen as artists, seen technology really open up new avenues for you to be able to produce art before we kind of shift over to the NFT side?
Yeah, because from my background, I'm working for the visual art industry, but I felt many creative company and creative people separate their life work, client work, and their artwork, because before NFT, it was very difficult to selling the digital content itself. But after the NFT, now many visual production joining the crypto art industry, especially like the foundation is very, there's many music video production joining in the NFT, and they are making the big success. So then in the technical side, I'm feeling like the NFT is like the renaissance, like the vinyl for the musician, because before vinyl, musician, the way for getting the money for the musician is only for live performing. But after the vinyl, many things changed. Of course, the technology is changing, the vinyl, CD, and MP3, and iTunes, Spotify. But the biggest impact was the start from the vinyl. And I think the NFT is like the vinyl for the visual artists.
Awesome, thank you. Marie?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your question clearly because someone.
No worries. So basically the question is, how has, it's just a general discussion on how the evolution of like the computer, right? So in the 19th century, you could not have created digital art because we didn't have computers yet, right?
Yeah.
And with the dawn of the 20th century, like midway through, we had computers and like a very primitive way of editing and creating art in the digital context, right? And like after the 2000s hit, I think that with Photoshop, with AI and all these wonderful tools, we have the ability to create pieces of art in the digital space as a medium that previously could not have been done, to a degree, in my opinion, where we can create things in the digital space, whether that be VR or AR, that could not exist in the real world. So just a general discussion on how you've seen this evolution and what you think is the most useful in this kind of renaissance of digital art.
I see. So first of all, art is art. I think the experiment to us, we are physical existence. We have body, and we are also like art. We can exist in metaverse, a virtual world. So we can go both. So the digital renaissance expands like possibility. I think it's evolution, because we have been making physical art like in history, and now we got digital world as well, and the great tools, and it's evolves very fast. The digital tools, digital computer is like, yeah. This revolution is going very, what do you say? exponentially. So I think our art will evolve and with this movement, and also our perception and also the way to think, a way to create art is also evolving and changing our world. I think it will be much creative and wonderful, I think. And that NFT, this movement, is just started. And I think it just pushes us to the new world. So yeah, I'm very excited. This new digital renaissance. Yeah, and thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, you. Nick, what are your thoughts? You're kind of the guy from like the platform perspective.
Yeah, so I think you and also Marie bring up really good points. I think you also mentioned the sort of the introduction of the vinyls and maybe even laserdiscs and CDs now streaming, right? So over the time, I think the concept of music and something that sounds pleasant to the ears hasn't really changed. No one wants to listen to coarse sounds. There's a pleasantness and there's a ethereal pleasure to listening to something that is good. But I guess the medium that it's created on is always different. Previously, there were woodwind. I guess it was just a recorder and then woodwinds and brass, and now there's CDs and digital musics. I think like Marie said, there's an evolving of these digital technologies that allow more things to happen. I'm more conscious to the words I would use, so I would not want to say that digital art is really cannibalizing traditional art, because I do think you guys would share the same space. So it's just that previously in the 16th century, you would never be able to get a very uniform bass sound that you would from electronic music nowadays. It's just virtually impossible. Whereas I think people can still appreciate music from back then. And so even with digital art, I really feel like the content that people are creating hasn't really changed for the last 10 years. I think when I first grew up, there was a website called DeviantArt, which is a very, very popular website where a lot of visual artists, digital artists would actually go and post and share the content that they worked on. So a lot of the art from then and now hasn't really differentiated. It's just that NFT gives a new way of distributing your content, much like Spotify is a new way of distributing music to millions of people. It kind of changes the business model of art and how things are appreciated. But I think right now we see a lot of resurgence of new appreciation into digital art, where because now there's a new way of appreciating, but I think the content really hasn't changed that much in the last that many years. So it's very interesting to see how a small change can really impact sort of a larger conversation about digital art. And I think this is what we really need to bring a lot more appreciation to the visual artists and digital artists that are working in the space.
So to kind of follow up on that analogy of music, right? So there's purists that basically say, hey, vinyl is the way to go, because when you record something digitally, it's in steps, versus vinyl, which is rounded, right? And then beyond that, actually tape from the 70s is even higher quality, right? So to some degree, yes, you can produce sounds. I think we're at that tipping point where it's like preference, right? Because electronic music, you can produce sounds, especially on the low end, that previously can't be reproduced through natural instruments, right? So we've hit a tipping point where in some regards, digital music is better, right? Because they can produce sounds that you can't emulate in the natural world. However, by that same analogy, are we at a point where digital art kind of has some facets that exceed traditional art as far as having like a physical piece? Or is it at a stage where we had, when we had CDs, vinyl was still better, tapes were still better? So what do you guys think about that? Are we at a point where, vinyl is still better, tapes are still better? Or have we already hit that point where, with like VR, AR, we're at a point where we can excel in some regards, right? Because some people will have that preference. They want to touch the piece. They want to see the piece. The form factor of something being physical will always have that. Some people that are kind of like hang on to that kind of aesthetic, versus like, going back to the analogy of like the low end you can produce in synthetic music. In some regards, are we there, or what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, so for example, I'm mainly making the VR, and we also using with a touch designer. Wait a moment. So for example, in my case, before NFT, I worked mainly for the touch designer for stage visual, like mainly 2D. But after NFT, I think I should switch from the 2D to 3D, more virtual things, because this is what I think, because the next media will be the VR, so I need to switch my not from the 2D to virtual reality, but in personally, sometimes I like the very trippy 2D graphics artists, also like the sometimes still photo. So yeah, I think it depends on the artist and where they want to. And it depends on the artist where they want to make their main field. But for me, now VR is very now rapidly increasing and the technology changing. Also, yeah, in person it's interesting.
So do you prefer making digital art or physical art?
I'm the 100% digital.
Awesome. Good to know. And Marie?
Me, I graduated art school at university in Japan. So I have been doing physical art, and also I was painting in oil painting from my childhood. So I like physical art as well. Of course, it has texture. It's of course it's a 2D, but it's 3D. It's a modeling of our paint, and it looks you can look the reflection is different, and I can see the texture if I go to museum. So it's totally different to looking at the monitor as a 2D. So I think that I like the physical texture. Also, yeah, in terms of music, my father is PA engineer. He organizes parties, festivals, so he does a lot of sound. And I started the VJ in my father's party. So there's a lot of DJs and people. DJ likes like vinyls. I think, yeah, they like more organic or smooth or whatever. It's not digital. They love vinyls. Some DJs.
Yeah, many DJ like
Yeah,
the vinyl.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I collect vinyls too.
yeah. So analog and the physical is great. Of course, it's great thing. But digital is also very, very great too. And what's happening in this digital renaissance? People were making a still images or photos. But NFT, we see a lot of moving images with sound. So this digital media, digital art can make like combine all sorts of different expression, sound, images, moving images, 3D, and so on. So I think this digital is more like beyond the dimension. So it's very, very interesting. So metaverse can contain all the contents like sound, visual, still images, and also we can dive into the space. So I think both I love. But yeah, I think digital can make more this art space can dynamically change the dimensions, I think.
Yeah. So
Thanks.
yeah, I have a question to Marie. So I think previously I think you mentioned a couple of labels that you called a graphic artist or a digital artist. So my question is, with this whole new digital renaissance, do you see a lot of labels and sort of how people identify changing, especially in your local community or even online in Discord? So what are people saying that they are now that they weren't previously? You know, crypto artist, digital artist, visual artist, painter. Like, do you hear any common trends amongst your community?
No, what do you mean about label? By label?
Yeah, so if I'm a digital artist and
Okay.
I say I am a digital artist, I am
Okay.
a visual artist.
Genre. Okay, so I think a lot of artists, maybe half of the artists are just the digital artists, 100% digital artists in my community, but half of them, some of them are really, really analog. Like for example, he's in the space, but one guy came here, and I don't know digital at all. And I'm a glass artist. I make some kind of very beautiful glass objects, but I want to make it some way digital, and I want to make it NFT. So, and I want to know how to do it. Okay, we can discuss about it. Maybe we can collaborate. And then he showed me some his glass object with light, and he's changing the lighting, and it's really beautiful. The shading, the changes. So yeah, I wanted to say is Mainly, firstly, in the beginning, digital artists, most of NFT artists were digital artists. But now people realize, wow, the NFT is changing the art art scene, and people are interested. So people getting in the space more and more. So now physical and kind of traditional artists in increase in the numbers.
Also, some artists start labeling themselves as like crypto artists.
Yeah. Sorry. They are talking about the label one. So it's very difficult, but I put crypto artist. Crypto artist is using the NFT, and it does mean anything, everything.
Oh, do you guys identify with a crypto artist? And what does a crypto artist mean to you guys?
For me, crypto artist meaning the artist thinking that their main field is the crypto industry. Also, the artist who wants to commit something with the blockchain. For example, the artists who truly like the concept of the decentralization. So, for example, in my case, sometimes I battled with some NFT discussion, like because, for example, like it's a clean NFT or Ethereum or something. But while this discussion, I think the expressing, for example, if my work is more and more popular and everything was minted in the Ethereum, of course, people will think about what is the Ethereum, and then people thinking what is the concept of decentralization. So for me, the crypto artist meaning also have the sympathy with the concept of the blockchain itself. And I think, of course, the many other people have the different minds.
So I think the what you say, the genre level doesn't mean because it's not so important. Of course, the crypto artist, I can be a visual artist or installation artist or performance artist. I do the performance artist, performing art with dancers, with live visuals. So I changed the name to suit to the event or the yeah. So crypto artist means, I think, yeah, it's basically the blockchain based. NFT is one of the blockchain based the technology, and it's mainly now art scene is quite hot about it. But it's non-fungible token. It's not only that non-fungible token, but it's crypto is, I think, more wider meaning. Yeah, it means also DeFi. And so I wanted to say is, yeah, I call myself crypto artist because I was interested in blockchain, of the potential to change this world. That's why I'm working really passionately for this scene. So that's why I want to call myself crypto artist at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you. So I think that's a good segue into like the main point of discussion, which is, do you think that NFTs are cannibalizing the traditional art space, right? So your friends and colleagues who make physical pieces, are they getting less business because of the rise of NFTs, or are the NFTs basically selling art to people who didn't traditionally buy any art at all?
I think the traditional art industry and the crypto art industry will living like the different universe. Especially in Japan, almost all the traditional art collectors don't join in the crypto art industry. Also, almost all of my crypto art collector friends, they don't collect the traditional art because many of my art collector friends start collecting the art only after NFT because around me, they are living like that very, very different universe.
And from my viewpoint, I have a lot of artist friends. They are physical artists. I mean, like traditional artists. And I think the art is art. So what is the tool we use? Sometimes digital, sometimes physical. And I think it's the art is art, and essentially. So when someone collects to use blockchain or digital art, and we call them digital artists. But I think I want to bridge between physical or traditional artists and crypto and NFT artists in this world. And I think it goes well. Yeah, of course, there's some cannibalism kind of feeling, especially in the beginning of this NFT boom, like this year in January, February, in the boom in Japan, NFT boom in Japan, and but what do you say, modern art people, I say, we don't care. We don't care about that kind of geeky technology. We have been like doing this art from like 1,000 years, and but I thought it takes more time, especially Japanese. Oh, I don't know, the art scene, like art market in New York, Tokyo market. Japanese art market is not so big. So, like for example, Takashi Murakami, Yayoi Kusama goes to New York, and they're really like in world known artist. But suddenly, Takashi Murakami joined NFT world, and I went, wow, it's so quick. And then so his collector have to think about, oh, we have to collect NFT as well. So they kind of changed mind, switched it, and that's one way to change the traditional artist and the collector's mind. Some are artists who like to try new world, new era. Actually, Takashi Murakami stopped his auction once in OpenSea, but I thought he kind of nah. But actually, he was talking in Clubhouse. He was really exciting. He's exciting about NFT, but he has to change. Maybe some are knowledge people with blockchain. I say, no. I think you should use your own contract or something. So he stopped, and he will thinking to make new thing in NFT. So I think, of course, this digital renaissance, digital transformation, cannibal with the old world, all the kind of fixed world. It's not only art thing, but it's gradually changing. And I think this COVID situation pushes, like, accelerate this situation too. So, yeah.
Thank you. Nick, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I guess an introduction to Yuri and also Marie. So I don't think they know who I am. So essentially, I run a NFT marketplace called Refinable based on Binance Smart Chain. And so essentially, we want to bring accessibility to people when it comes to NFTs. So that's really about bringing lower cost, faster transactions, and more security when it comes to NFTs. So that's, I come from the perspective of running the actual marketplace. But I think when it comes down to, is the new digital art wave really cannibalizing on traditional art sales? Then on a certain level, there are only so much capital out there that people will want to spend. If someone spends $1 million on a Beeple piece, then they wouldn't spend that million on another traditional art piece. So in a sense, then yes, a consumer is making that choice to buy something that resonates with them, right? And I think if it doesn't really resonate with the consumer, then would it still be effective to really still call something cannibalizing? It is mostly a new way of appropriating your funds and where I want to put my money towards. And so if something speaks to me on the digital realm, then I think they have every right to go buy it, because I think there's a new generation of users that really comes up. And this new generation of users and consumers really live on the digital realm, right? You have the whole metaverse, you have gaming ecosystems, and you have a lot of themes that I guess traditional art fellows don't really pay that much attention to, or it doesn't really speak to them on a channel that matters as much. And so when it comes down to the NFTs, one big trend that I'm super fascinated by is really the NFT avatars. So everyone here probably has a Facebook profile. And I guess people usually have different photos as their profile picture. So if it's not a picture of you, it's probably a picture of your favorite celebrity, your favorite anime character, your favorite something else, your favorite color. And I think right now there's a huge trend in NFTs with these avatars that people can create and people can go and actually buy. So essentially, you're buying an ultra unique profile picture for yourself that could you can identify with, that makes you feel belonging to a crowd. And I think that is a new way that people are spending their money and really helping them find identity on the digital realm. So I think it's less so much cannibalizing, but more about giving users more ways of spending money and defining art, right? Your profile picture is your representation on the digital domain. Is that art or is it something else? Well, I think from my perspective, it's always been just content that people want access to. So, as long as users have more content, I think people will find more joy in finding things that they like, and hopefully they can buy it, whether it's traditional or not traditional. So I guess the short answer is yes, there is some cannibalization going, but I do think this is all for the benefit of the end user. And I think there's more stimulation and more creativity and more channels for artists to start creating their work that speaks to them, that speaks to their users. And I think it's generally a pretty positive movement in my view.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the cannibalism that is happening is probably in the lower single digit percentage. You know what I mean? It's the people that do collect traditional art that bought some NFTs are probably at a minimum. And going back to what you said about community and belonging, like remember that ape, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the ape trend. There were these ape profile pictures, and to get into certain chats, you had to have one of these profile pictures. And then some of my colleagues are like, well, I want to be part of that chat. I want to get that alpha. And then they bought it for like $200 or $300. Like 2-3 weeks later, they sold it for like 5 or 10 ETH, right? So there's also that opportunity of these entire new kind of communities coming up to where you kind of have access to that community through the NFT, right? So I think, and these people that are buying these NFTs, they just traditionally aren't really art people, but the reason why they got it is, like you said, they wanted to belong to a community. And now like all these guys who bought those ape pictures, these NFTs, they use them as their profile picture on Twitter, on Telegram, on Facebook. So I think it's a new form of expression, right? Because I think fundamentally that's what art is, right? And kind of going back to like Beeple, that kind of seems to be the kind of cornerstone of like, why NFTs got so hot. Before people sold, art for that amount of money, right? He was pretty popular in the digital art space, right? Very underground. He was like kind of like the 4chan Reddit artist, right? So to people who did buy these Beeples at exorbitant prices, to them it was worth that much because it resonated with them. And probably like 2-3 years ago when they heard about him, they weren't like crypto rich. And then now they're like, oh, ETH's $4,000. Well, might as well,
So I think just to tack on one additional point, and I think when the word cannibalization really comes in, it's like, what are you really cannibalizing? If it's just the amount of money that's going to be spent on traditional art, then probably yes. But to a consumer, a lot of people that are buying NFTs right now are probably not usually people that buy traditional art. So the money that they're actually spending on that is not actually going to be spent on traditional art, right? The money that I spent on my new profile picture is probably different from the money that I will spend on something that I hang in my living room, right? Or something that I buy as a wallpaper on my desktop might be the different kind of money pool than something that I would see in a public venue, right? So I think the word choice is quite interesting. So I do think it's all about the consumer, about hey, what originally were they going to do, and is it actually going to take away from what they want? So I do think this new generation is most likely not spending that amount of money on the actual traditional art. Probably not at that age either. I think people are more concerned with a lot of other stuff, at this age, and a lot of the youngsters, primarily people that are in the crypto stuff, more experimental, are probably more on the fringe of interest, right? So on the Reddit side, on DeviantArt, or just more digitally savvy as well. So I would say it's quite interesting how these crowds will mix. And now you see these industries trying to capitalize on, I guess, the different trends that are happening. And I think there were a couple of panelists that were supposed to be here from the traditional art side. I think it would have been super fascinating to get their take on exactly what is happening on their lens. But I think for now, it's mostly just from the crypto side, all these optimists, planning out how we're going to go in the future, running these virtual art festivals to really think, bring you guys on board to really see what's actually out there. I think on the video, we have a couple of NFT art that's on the loop. That's actually like quite nice. You have the animations going on. I think there's sound and music is a completely different experience, and you wouldn't be able to hang it in your living room. So I would say it's such a different aspect, and it's so hard to sort of find a common area to really talk about, right?
Yeah, and I think from the kind of VC perspective, if we've learned anything on the GBV side, it's that ecosystems are everything, right? And I think if anything, this new kind of user base that's coming into NFTs versus traditional art, and there's a bridge between them, right? It might not even necessarily be cannibalism, but kind of a complementary kind of ecosystem that we form between each other, right? Because I mean, I'm sure you've noticed that you know better than any, especially being so crowded in the NFT space, that there isn't really any competition, like, you know, behind doors. That's more kind of like generated by the community. It's more about collaboration because we are such a small space.
Exactly. I think the word would be symbiotic relationship. Symbiotic in that, you know, it complements each other. I wouldn't say it's really cannibalizing. But I think, Marie, you were about to say something?
Oh, I just agree with you. At the moment, the digital art and the traditional art is not cannibalizing because it's totally different users, different collectors. And I think the people are buying NFTs now at the moment is crypto rich. And maybe the cannibalizing between the DeFi people buying art instead of coins. And but it's okay. They have a system to what do you say, increase money. Anyway, the DeFi system is quite compatible. It's quite
Yeah, like to say about the DeFi, sometimes nowadays many crypto art is becoming more connected with the DeFi. So DeFi and NFT is a bit very different ecosystem with the traditional art.
and and also I wanted to say cannibalizing. Oh, sorry, maybe I missed the subject, but I have been doing the visual art, visual jockey, and at the Leo event, and under this COVID situation, totally, the event has all gone, stopped. So I have 3 projection mapping projects and also 2 fashion show, like and it's all gone. So my few months are no job, nothing. And I suddenly shocked for all the musicians and the eventers and artists. It hits and got damaged a bit of the industry. And suddenly the NFT happened. So it's kind of helping the artists. It's not kind of, it's helping artists, also the industry. And I think it's
You're meaning mainly the musician and event industry, right?
yeah. And then what I like this scene is people are helping each other and symbiosis, and it's not like fighting each other. And of course, it's small scene, but I like this kind of kindness, living together and helping each other, and let's grow together. This mindset. And I hope we can continue this kind of collaborative thinking way when we become more, this scene become more big. And I think we can still keep it.
Thank you. I think you know, you hit on a great point, and I think having artists come into the crypto space as well has been an injection of culture and kind of this different perspective than what we normally see in the crypto space. So it's been quite refreshing, and it kind of just builds upon what we're doing in the space in general and adding to our culture. So at this point in time, I'd like to open up the floor to a Q&A session. So if anyone in the audience here has any questions for Nick, myself, or any of our artists in Japan, please feel free to you know, raise your hands. Max, can you run the mic around?
So what about hybrid? So,
Hybrid?
So the physical piece and also an NFT piece.
Yeah. Is that a question? What is the hybrid?
Yeah, so the question is basically, what are your take on a hybrid model of connecting a physical piece with the digital NFT? Is that correct? Yep.
Okay.
So Marie, you want to take a stab? Or
so I started doing the physical NFT exhibition is because we know the traditional art and in museum this experience, and I like the physical art, and but in this NFT scene you have to look into the PC monitor and the browser and the marketplace, and finally we can see our art. So I think I want to make it hybrid because digital and also the physical piece I can put it in my room so I can enjoy anytime. So
You're
the
meaning the physical monitor.
physical, yeah, art frame, I say. And sorry, maybe I didn't get the question. What is hybrid? Hybrid is digital and physical analog, right? Digital and analog,
Yeah,
basically.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think the
So-
question would be, so if you have a physical item and you sell a digital item as well, how do you sort of connect the two? Are they the same thing? Are they different? I think that, yeah, the issues of these hybrid models.
Okay. So one photographer, he is a commercial photographer, and I was helping his exhibition, and he actually sold the physical photos, and he gave the NFTs to the people who bought his photo in the gallery. So it was like giveaway. But the next week, like few weeks later, the NFT was on OpenSea, and it sold high price, more like 5, 6, or 10 times more than the original photos. And I saw the photographer was surprised. Wow, what? I gave it away, but it's selling like expensive. It's more expensive than my physical art, like actual piece. And so he was explaining to the collectors. It's like guarantee. What do you say? Hoshosho guarantee. Guarantee card or something, but a guarantee card is so expensive than his physical piece. So I think people make a hybrid NFT, they can connect, but also it's different. It has different value, and some collectors prefer digital one because it doesn't take space. He doesn't use storage. He can take his favorite art any place in his smartphone, and he can use the projector to project like this. So yeah, hybrid is very interesting, but I think it's kind of different side of it.
Yeah, and some artists put the QR code of OpenSea in the physical artworks, so everyone can scan the QR code and see who is the owner of NFT now.
Yeah, traceability and the loyalty is coming back to artists. That's very, very great thing. Of one very great thing in this NFT for the artists is really fair system for artists, because in traditional art, artists cannot trace, or even if it's sold at really like massive money, and then artists cannot get anything in Japan especially. And but now the artist has a royalty, and it's with great system. And I want to say, and hybrid means, I think some of the collector collects a physical thing too, an NFT too.
Yeah. So at least from my side, from the NFT market, so you see a lot of models with the artist, and there's a whole conversation: are they creating the digital art? Are they creating the physical art? And how those two connect. So at least from the marketplace side, we see the sort of trend is really people can create a unique digital piece and a physical piece and connect them, but they have to be comfortable with these two items sort of separating at some point and living on their own. The other way that people can do it is really treat the NFT as really a redemption item, an IOU. So essentially you can trade this IOU ticket freely. And then at one point, the NFT can essentially be consumed to basically ship you the actual item. So there are different ways of playing on the NFT medium. So there are many, it really depends on the artist, on what they want to do and what they're comfortable with, how esoteric or theoretical you want your ideas to tackle. So it's there's a lot of different aspects of handling the hybrid model. Hopefully that answers your question.
Valuable NFT being like a reference, but
yeah, that's very, very possible for the actual NFT, or the physical being more valuable than the digital, or the digital being more valuable than the physical. I mean, at the end of the day, the valuation comes from, I guess, the buyer, and so it really depends on what the buyer is comfortable with, specifying. Oh, we have a.
Excuse me, I
Oh,
just came in. Okay, so can I ask you one question? Maybe somebody already asked. Okay, this is my curious. Okay, I buy you got an NFT. Okay, for an artwork. Okay, sorry. So you have done a NFT for an artwork, right? For artwork. Now so I buy the NFT. Does it mean that art supposed to be okay? That art okay belongs to me, or a painting, or let's say a painting, okay, that belongs to me, right? So you are going to ship it to me physically. Is that right?
Yeah,
Or
so
not?
hypothetically, you could do that, but
Yeah.
typically speaking, in that scenario, you would have to trust the seller, right? So if I auction my physical piece of art on a platform,
Yeah.
the platform isn't necessarily responsible for shipping and handling and doing due diligence on the authenticity of the piece. That's more or less comes down to the trust of the seller, right? Furthermore, the real question is, after you redeem that piece, do you want the NFT to be tradable in the secondary market? So what I mean by that is that you could basically put a physical piece up for auction, and then someone else buys that. And when they buy it and redeem it, the piece could be the NFT could be burned. Alternatively, you could have that so it's tradable in the secondary market after the piece itself has been redeemed. So basically, the physical aspect has been removed from the NFT, but the NFT itself still has a digital copy, and it's tradable in the secondary market.
Good. So when when it is tradable in the secondary market, okay. So what happened to the insurance or the storage or the fees, okay, that I have to incur, okay, that the physical product. Yeah, I still have the physical product, okay, but that NFT is already in the secondary market. People buy and sell. And the second question is, for those new buyer or who holds the token, okay, what's the value for him? Okay, is this any appreciation, or they're just waiting for something happen?
So to
question.
answer your first question, to start, so again, if the piece, so once you mint this piece on a platform, right, even if it's redeemable, the assumption is that wherever that piece is now, do you have an agreement with the platform or something like that to where it's not going to be moved or transferred until it's redeemed. So happening to where they have custody of the piece until it's redeemed. Once it's redeemed, it's unpegged from the physical piece. So the secondary market, the NFT in the secondary market, it's really up to what the market perceives the value of that piece is without being pegged to the real piece. So it really comes down to the user. What is the sentimental value I believe that this piece is worth as kind of like a mock-up of the original piece, right? Because it's an image that's on IPFS or something like that, and then it's on-chain data that says that I own it, but it's no longer pegged to the physical piece. So it really comes down to what the market perceives the value is and what people are willing to pay.
Yeah, but so if I hold that physical painting, okay, so I bear that insurance, storage, and etc. So I'll still have to bear that. Although that what do you call the NFT already in the secondary market, buy and sell, okay, so it doesn't. But I'm for the insurance company, okay, then we'll say, all right, I buy this painting and I buy $1 million insurance, okay, and the insurance company is, somehow it is stolen, okay, then who has the right, NFT holder, or I have the right to claim that insurance, or the insurance correct?
So there's a lot to unpack there, and that's exactly why this hasn't really been done with high value goods, right? We did this last year on Solable, which is one of the first NFT platforms on Solana. We did a Bitcoin tram campaign where we had Bitcoin trams driving around Hong Kong. We had a shelter that said "Be Your Own Bank" in front of HSBC, and to commemorate that, we made these model trams, and these trams were redeemable, right? So you could buy this NFT on this platform and redeem it. So in this case, it worked. But when you're talking about insurance, when you go down the road of like custody, especially for high value goods, this is something that there's no SOP, right? There's no standard operating procedure in place, because you're right, there is a lot of liability. Like, I have to trust the guy selling this piece that he's not going to have the piece stolen. It's not going to be damaged, that he's actually going to deliver it. And that's exactly why we aren't seeing this as common use until there's some form of like custody in place for the piece, some sort of standard operating procedure. We're not really going to see this become something that's like mainstream, because you really have to trust the buyer in that case, or the seller rather, the seller.
I just have one thing to add, is that I guess just because something is on an NFT doesn't make all real world issues go away. I mean, NFT is purely a technology. I think the question that you're asking more relates to, buying a car from firsthand from Mercedes versus buying it secondhand off Asia Expat, Craigslist or Carousel. all these questions about insurance, ownership, who, if the car gets damaged when the person A ships it to person B, whose is it? These are all existing problems that people have to figure out. And just because it's on an NFT doesn't make it any easier or harder. I think these are just existing things that people have to resolve anyways, right? It's just part of the business practice of doing business or running a deal, right? So again, NFT doesn't solve any of these issues. I guess it's an extra layer to consider. So I think that is one big thing to just put out there. But I guess Marie or you, do you guys have anything to add from the creator side? How do you guys tackle issues about, I guess the peripheral issues about, say, damages or fees to the physical and custody items? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
And one thing, it's okay.
Yeah.
One thing, we had the previous session here, and the session was actually the Nanakusa Japanese marketplace, and one guy from Terada Soko is a storage company, big. They have huge storage company, and BJU as a metaverse gallery owner, and the other guy was Mikezo. He's a metaverse creator. He builds his own metaverse, and also he's kind of planning some exciting projects. So the Terada Soko storage company is really into it because they're interested in NFT because there's another way to they already have a galleries, and they what do you say,
So the Terra Warehouse is the Japanese almost the biggest art complex company. So their clients is the art gallery. So they are storage and custody for the physical artworks. And so this kind of the biggest physical art custody company now have the interest for the NFT. So we think this kind of thing will happen all over the world. So many traditional art warehouse companies join for the NFT industry. So soon it will be more sophisticated.
Yeah, and one of these Terada Soko is a storage company is interested because they can sell the physical art, and they have a custody. Of course, they have insurance, and they have a professional stuff. So they can store the owner's art, but still owner have NFT, so they can enjoy it. But they have their main business is storage. So they have a lot of customer has NFT, also the physical piece, and they can have they can be a custody of the physical part. So they are very interested.
I think in the future they will storage the physical master and selling the 3D data with the NFT.
Yeah, and actually, NFT can be the proof with this physical piece is real. So they scan really like high resolutions, massive pixels, high resolution. So people cannot copy or make fake physical art, and the NFT itself has data over any like spectrum or any kinds of data to prove this physical piece is real, the thing. So this is another way physical piece and the NFT can go together well.
Awesome, thank you. So I think we have time for one more question, and then we'll just kind of pass the mic around, and everyone can give their closing statements. Yeah,
Yes.
what's your question?
Just one question. How do you manage the compliance for NFT?
How do you manage compliance for NFT is the question. So I think that this is in line with just about any form of compliance. So it's about, it really comes down to the platform. So first of all, what are the requirements as a platform for me to auction or buy an NFT as a user? I think it's more KYC really applies to people bidding pieces, right? So if I'm auctioning a piece, Nick, I mean, actually, this is probably a good question for you to kind of take lead on. So how do you do KYC on your platform?
Yeah, so I mean, the compliance is a very interesting issue because in my perspective, an NFT is very different from, say, a Bitcoin. I think NFT is more closer to me like an ID system than it is a currency, right? Because every NFT is unique and you can put whatever you want on the NFT. So in my head, it's very immature or very naive to put a Bitcoin together with an NFT. But I think a lot of the regulation that we do see takes a much more blanket approach with sort of virtual assets as a whole, right? That could include, Bitcoin, Ethereum, NFTs, Asia Miles, whatever points that you guys have, like these can all potentially be classified as virtual assets. And I think right now there's a lot of education that has to happen with politicians, policymakers on really defining what exactly is a virtual asset. How do we handle these things? And so when it comes down specifically to your question about NFT compliance, it really depends on what exactly they're like, which segment, because NFT is just so big, right? Of course, when it comes to digital art, I don't think there's much that needs to be done because it's much more like carousel or just a Craigslist than anything. But when it comes down to certain NFTs, because you can add a lot of items to NFTs, such as custom logic, maybe holding this NFT gives you, voting rights or dividends or something like that. So when it comes down to those, it really it befalls the creator of the NFT or whoever created this or is giving it the dividends or giving it the power that has to follow those compliance. At least from my side as a marketplace, we always try to comply with the local regulations. I mean, obviously there are challenges because we are an internet business and we are a digital platform, and technically anyone on the internet can access us. So sometimes it's a little hard on, how do we even do it when the regulations are very unclear. So I think right now we are talking to a lot of our legal friends to really figure out, okay, what exactly does it look like? Where should we be heading to? What are things that we should watch out for? And I think it's always good, from our side to get, legal opinions on exactly what we're doing. Is that, is that over the line? Is that okay? And so these are always just very, very interesting conversations. And I can say with confidence that no one has any confidence in sort of what is actually going on right now because it's still moving so fast. But I guess the last statement I would make about this is just that, the NFT industry is really, moving on because of people who build and people who are, moving it forward. And I think, a lot of regulators are always, catching up. So I think in the meantime, it's still super exciting for us to build these technologies, support, artists like Yua and also Marie. And there's a lot more retail applications that we're also working on that I can talk about later on. But I think that's, yeah, so the short answer is yes. Can you do the microphone so our artists can hear?
We mentioned about the compliance, okay? Compliance is more about AML, okay? Your NFT is $1 million, okay? I pay you $1 million. How do you know my money is clean and clear in a sense, okay? It's not coming from a terrorist. It's not coming out from the drugs dealing or anything like that. That is the compliance that you have to follow on that issue, okay? How do you do it or you don't do it? You may say in the carousel, okay, oh yeah, I buy the refrigerator, okay, or those are the small items that may not be very, I mean, AML is not going to look at that, okay, but when you're selling a NFT about $1 million, okay,
yeah.
AML people will just come up, follow you, okay, all right, you usually receive the money, but how do you know that money is clean and clear? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think these are some of the growing pain questions that, of course, running a marketplace that we are concerned. I don't think our artists in Japan are most concerned about that. But again, these are things that we're working with regulators on. I mean, it's quite hard to actually verify on the AML side, where the tokens are coming from. But luckily, like right now, our transaction sizes are rather not that big. And so if someone is really trying to launder like 1, 2, 10 BNBs worth, I think that's not a very good use of their time, and they're getting a nice piece of JPEG image. So at the end of the day, it's hard. We try. I mean, there's no short answer that I can give at the current moment that says, okay, we have an easy solution to do this, or there are solutions for us. I mean, the thing that we can do is that we can work with, I guess, people on the blockchain that already verify, okay, these are certain blacklisted wallets and you cannot receive funds from them. So I think that's really the most that we can do. But again, the way that I think about a marketplace is a lot more similar to a peer-to-peer exchange, that we enable one person to list something for sale that they own, and then another buyer to come in and transact with them. So on the marketplace, there's not much that we can do on that front. So that's sort of where we're at right now.
So yeah, now I'd like to kind of pass the mic around for closing statements. So you, Marie, if you guys want to kind of give your closing statements, and I'll pass it off to Nick, and then we'll kind of open up the floor for everyone to kind of mingle and ask any sort of post-event questions.
Yeah, so regarding the, okay, so I think the NFT is not just Now we are thinking about many artists, one collector, but I think the more impact for about NFTs will be more key to make the new community. So now we are talking mainly thinking about one artist, but probably in future there will be more DAO and NFT community becoming very big impact. So yeah, so please, if you have the interest about NFT, please watch out the whole industry itself. Then probably you can see a very big, interesting revolution.
Okay. So I wanted to say something quite close. I think NFT is not only art, but it could be a lot of new case. It's a lot rights to get something, maybe some service, some yeah. In Japan, there's a sushi top shop. Sushi top shop is popular, really hot in Japan now.
Probably everyone don't know sushi top shop.
Yeah. So there's an NBA Top Shot. There's a huge NFT, successful story. So Japanese sushi restaurant started Sushi Top Shop, and it's just beautifully kind of filmed and nicely in a card and rotating in 3D. And the Sushi Top Shot is they started, and now they have a full reservation with and then they can pay in sushi like sushi swap
token.
Sushi token. They can pay sushi token at sushi restaurant. So and in the other under COVID situation, the restaurant and cafes all they struggling, but in the sushi shop they succeed to make NFT, and also the people pay in sushi token, and then they have a DeFi. So they're really good at it, and it's one case. It's not only art. So I think the NFT has potential to solve the social problem as well. So we want to think about it, and also art will have more possibility and meaning to many people. Actually, after this NFT boom, I feel a lot of people didn't care about art before, but now they think of art. What is art? And which art I should buy? And so it's the world is changing more kind of artistic way and a creative way. Also, kind of economy is going with because it's token economy. So I think it's really interesting aspect we have in this age. So yeah, I'm very excited to be here now in this scene, and and also we can hook up, connect all worldwide community like this. So yeah, I'm very happy.
Yeah, living in this revolution as the player is very exciting right now.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Oh, that's super good to hear that, there's other NFT applications for, not just in Hong Kong, but also in Japan as well. Like sushi restaurants paying with sushi tokens. I think that's a new thing that, that is bound to happen. But at least from our side, we're an NFT marketplace that allows for accessibility to engage with NFT content. And one of the things that we really want to do is say visual art is definitely on the first lowest hanging fruit for us to really go for. But on the back, we're actually working with a lot of corporate brands and also businesses, items from all around the world to really showcase what else NFTs can really do. I think when it comes down to it, you can really do different types of NFT membership badges, you can do gamifications, you can do sort of a lot of different marketing campaigns as well that could promote different types of businesses as well. So I think there's a lot of interesting conversations that we're having with different projects out there to really showcase what NFT can really do. Because at the end of the day, you can write any custom logic that you want on these NFTs. And I think these NFTs can really help digitize and automate a lot of the items that go on around the world. Even the stamps that you collect at Welcome can be an NFT. Right. So I think it's about, stimulating the imagination for, everyday users about what NFTs can really be. And I think once that imagination has really been stimulated, then we can really start having more productive conversations about where to really take this whole industry.
Yeah, so my 2 cents, just to bring things back full circle to the topic of this track. So going back to your analogy earlier with Spotify and like the evolution of music, I think that, after this discussion, it kind of seems like we really are at that place to where the difference between NFTs and traditional art is kind of like the difference between listening to tape or vinyl versus the low end that you can get from synthetic music that you just can't produce with the more traditional stuff. So I think that it really boils down to like subjective preference. And I think there's plenty of room for both of us to coexist and even help complement each other's ecosystems. Thank you, Marie, so much for joining. I hope you
Thank
keep in
you.
touch.
Let's
Yeah,
keep in
and,
touch.
feel free to mingle, guys. We're on to the kind of more casual section of this event.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.